Even though Selena Gomez chooses to not acknowledge her pre-revival albums, the generation of kids and teens that grew up with them still have fond memories of her early works that keep those records alive. The girl had some of the best pop songs from the late 2000s and early 2010s, and I don't think she gets enough credit for having such an enjoyable discography. Her first four albums represent pop in its purest, most mindlessly fun form, and that's what makes them so great. However, while I love each of them, there's naturally always going to be a weak link, and her second record, A Year Without Rain, was always that for me. Now let me make it clear, I love A Year Without Rain, but I personally think it's Selena's most inconsistent record. Released a year after her first album, Kiss and Tell, A Year Without Rain leans heavily in the synth-pop and electronic direction, as opposed to the pop-rock sound of her debut. This was a smart decision, as Selena shined on EDM tracks. I don't mean to be shady, but it's not like she ever had a powerful voice, and some of the songs on Kiss and Tell forced her to reach notes that she really couldn't. A Year Without Rain doesn't challenge her to hit frequent high notes, and when it does, the use of auto-tune isn't super distracting. Since the whole album is rooted in electronic synth-pop, you can hear the beginnings of the breathy, more hushed tone she'd become known for on this album, which suits her a lot better than the louder vocals required for Kiss and Tell. The production for roughly half the album was done by Rock Mafia, a team behind a lot of huge Disney Channel hits, like Miley Cyrus's Seven Things, Ali and AJ's Chemicals React, and Selena's Naturally, though ironically they didn't produce this album's two singles. The lead single, Round and Round, was released in June 2010, and this was a moment. I remember hearing the song all the time on the radio, though that's probably because I mainly listened to Radio Disney. Round and Round is still a top 3 Selena song for me. It's a perfect middle ground between the rock influence of her previous singles and the synth-pop sound she'd be staying in for future records. I still play this song frequently. It's so much fun to dance and get hyped to. Meanwhile, the second single, A Year Without Rain, is kind of the opposite, being a pretty piano-driven dance ballad with influences from Europop. This is another one of my favorite Selena songs. I literally get goosebumps every time I hear the beginning of it. It's another perfect example of how Selena's voice works so well on electropop songs. She gives a genuinely great performance, since she's not straining to hit any high notes. You can hear the heartbreak in her voice, and that sadness works as a contrast to the Eurodance production. The best songs are the ones that you could dance and cry to, and that's exactly what this is. The chorus of her comparing a day without her man being like a year without rain is so overly dramatic and extra, which is exactly how I like a pop ballad. I have screamed and cried to this song on many occasions, but I've also shaken my ass to it on many occasions. It's a truly verse song in that way. Unfortunately, this was the only other single from this album, which always confused me, because there's a few other tracks that could have at least been moderate hits. Off the Chain is an especially great one. It's pretty similar to the title track, being a dramatic Europop-inspired dance song, and it's every bit as good in my opinion. It's simultaneously one of her most epic-sounding and goofiest songs. The lyrics are so theatrical and over the top, and the production is so grand, but the chorus of her saying your love is off the chain, along with a random man screaming off the chain in the background, is so funny to me. On paper, it really shouldn't work, but it comes together so well as a piece of pure melodrama. I can't get enough of it. I legitimately want it played at my wedding. The other song that could have been a single is Intuition, with Eric Bellinger. This song is a bop, plain and simple. Just like the rest of the album, it's pure synthy electropop fun, and Selena's energy in it is infectious. It's so 2010 sounding in the best way. It's a mood booster song for sure, one that you could very easily scream along with. The 4 songs I've discussed so far are some of my all-time favorite Selena songs. I'm talking top 10 or top 15 at least. However, I don't think the rest of the album really lives up to those tracks. That's not to say any of the songs are bad, they're just mid. Summer's Not Hot is a little too silly and juvenile. Sick of You sounds like a C-tier Kiss and Tell reject. And the chorus to Spotlight literally sounds like the Thong song. Has anyone else ever thought that, or is it just me? Rock God was one I used to ignore completely, but it has grown on me a bit more over the years. I like the stomping production, and Selena brings a lot of charm to it, but I just never found it super catchy, especially the chorus. Fun fact, the song was actually meant for Katy Perry, and you can actually hear her vocals in the background. If only they collabed on a better song. Live Like There's No Tomorrow and Ghost of You are both good songs, but never really stood out to me. It feels like they're trying to reach the height and drama of the title track, but they just don't really get there in my opinion. I will give props to Ghost of You for being one of the most mature songs in her early catalog though. It wouldn't sound out of place on Revival or Rare, so it definitely showed some artistic growth. Overall, A Year Without Rain is an album of high highs and low lows. The songs that I love, I absolutely can't get enough of, but the rest of them, I'm lukewarm on. It's a really short album too, being only 10 songs, and since half of them are among my least favorite Selena cuts, that's why this is my least favorite album of hers. Again, not that it's a bad album at all, but I just find the overall quality to be lesser than her other works. Kiss and Tell may have been in a genre that her voice wasn't totally suited for, but she brought enough charisma that it didn't really matter, and I think the average song on that album is better than the average song on this album, if that makes any sense. However, I can't deny that the best songs on A Year Without Rain are some of her best songs period. It may not be the strongest record, but it's still worth a listen if you need some fun electropop in your life.